Alright, I just have one more video that I wanted to make relating to the light settings in Adobe's Lightroom. I'm going to actually pull up a photograph that I took. I'm going to go into my camera roll. I'll hit the just this last photograph I took, and I'll just click the check mark, and it is now it's in my Lightroom photos. You know, one thing that I never thought to mention until just now was it can make a really big difference if you like what your the brightness on your display is set to for editing photos. I mean, if you look like right here, you can't even see on the video the photograph, and as you move that slider over, I think in general probably having it as bright as it could possibly be would be the best idea, and I'll continue to do that in the videos that I make here. But yeah, to get that just on the phone here, just swipe up like this, and then make sure this slider here is all the way to the right. Now you're going to end up using more battery power if you have that always on the brightest setting. But for what we're doing here, I think it's justifiable, and if later you want to turn it down a little bit to save battery, that's up to you. Okay, so I just put a photograph from my camera roll into Lightroom, and I was just in the grocery store a little while ago, and I just took a random photograph because I realized I've been taking a lot of photographs outdoors or outside, and thought it'd be interesting to take one indoors and see if it makes any difference to to what I'm showing you here. So what I'm going to do is first I'll click twice, and then what we see is the histogram. So I remember with two fingers, click twice, and it turned out that this exposure turned out pretty nice. I can see, like, in the reflection on the floor here of the grocery store aisle, I see some of the highlights are completely blown out. If I went into, I'm going to put this up here, and I see those things here. Now if I go down to highlights and I move these around, I can get more of that information back. So this is with highlights all the way to the right, and then this is with, like, here. I'm going to adjust the highlights a little bit, you know, back a little bit. Maybe the contrast. Like I said, I always kind of like to adjust the contrast just a little bit, not so much that it looks crazy, like this would be really too much, although it has an interesting effect. So I'll show you that. Well, maybe we'll just do the before and after here. Before, after, before, after. So it's, you know, actually I kind of like it better than the original, whatever. It's really strong contrast, but it's a little bit better. But I think dialing that back maybe to like halfway or something, and that way if there's the before and there's the after. That's a more subtle change, and I think it's more appropriate for what this image kind of calls for. Not that this is a really inspiring image anyway, it's just something I wanted to play around with a little bit. Now the exposure is pretty much dead on. It does look like it could be lightened up a little bit in my mind, yeah, and that helped it. Again, there's not like a absolutely right way to do it. It's sort of how it looks best to you. There's the original, and there's the modified version of it. So it's got basically the relevant things that I've done are increase the exposure just a little bit here. I could even do it a little bit more, and probably, yeah. And the shadows, actually think that increasing the shadows might look kind of nice, because I noticed that, oh, let's see, yeah, the things that are sitting on the shelves, there's a lot of shadows on there, and you can see shadows are all the way down here. But if I add them by going this way, I get like a nice darkness in that area. And then I could further that darkness by putting the blacks in. And now maybe some, yeah, put the whites, and I just played around with it until I got what I want. And with a couple adjustments, I think maybe just one more exposure adjustment. Like I say, I always kind of finish with that. And I've got my photograph, and we'll do a before and after. Before and after. I think it looks nicer. So again, I think I would almost do this to every photograph that I took. It's, you know, I do actually within the Adobe Lightroom desktop software. I use it for any photograph that I'm serious about. I make all of these adjustments. So getting used to it is a good idea.